certainly hope that all the transmissions which are going out from here in Pasadena are coming in very clearly, for all those of you who are receiving video or audio or both, of course. And now, instead of a sermonette, we will show you a videotape presentation entitled Herbert W. Armstrong, Ambassador for World Peace. Throughout history, mankind has tried everything to achieve world peace. People have worked for world peace. They have striven for world peace. They have even fought for world peace, but all has been in vain. In a world that does not know the way to peace, God has opened doors for His apostle, Herbert W. Armstrong, to travel around the world with the message that peace is coming. Meeting with heads of state, notable educators, and other government officials for the past 15 years, Mr. Armstrong has indeed been preaching the gospel of the kingdom of God to the whole world.
Today we are living in a world that faces a great paradox. It is a world of awesome progress and accomplishments, with advancements in medicine, transportation, computer technology, communication, and space exploration. In the past 3 decades, knowledge has more than doubled. Yet we are living in a world of appalling evils, troubles, and violence. More than half the world's population lives in poverty, suffering from hunger and malnutrition. Ironically, even the poorest nations often resort to armed aggression to settle their disputes. Truly, we are living in a world that does not know the way to peace. One man, Herbert W. Armstrong, travels around the world and is recognized as an ambassador for world peace. Meeting with heads of state, prominent educators, and other world figures, he discusses the causes of world evils and explains the good news that there is a way to world peace. Because of his efforts, he has been called a builder of bridges between peoples everywhere. Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong, Pastor General of the Worldwide Church of God, founder and chancellor of Ambassador College, founder and president of the Ambassador Foundation, has since 1967 met with more heads of state in their private offices than any man alive. These include the late President Anwar el-Sadat of Egypt, as well as Egypt's current president, Hosni Mubarak, President Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines, Prime Minister Menachem Begin of Israel, King Hussein of Jordan, and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher of England. Mr. Armstrong has also met with every Prime Minister of Japan since 1971, including recently appointed Yasuhiro Nakasone. In recognition of his contributions to world peace, Mr. Armstrong has received numerous decorations, awards, and honorary doctorates. For example, in the early 1970s, Mr. Armstrong gave his support to help bridge differences between officials of the United States and Japan. He was honored by Emperor Hirohito with Japan's Order of the Sacred Treasure, the most prestigious award that can be bestowed upon a non-Japanese private citizen. In February of 1983, Mr. Armstrong was presented with the Most Noble Order of the Crown of Thailand on behalf of His Majesty King Bhumibol, in recognition of his years of service to the Thai nation. A few days later, Mr. Armstrong was honored by the Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos at the Malacañang Palace.
For his consistent articulation of the positive values that invest a truly human existence, for his comprehensive education and media network, he helped to disseminate these values worldwide to reach every race and religion. for his moral presence and compelling influence in moving people toward the creation of a just and peaceful world order, for his kinship with the Filipino spirit and his keen understanding of the country's collective resolve to promote peace, justice, and progress. Now, therefore, I, Ferdinand E. Marcos, President of the Philippines, do hereby confer upon Dr. Herbert W. Armstrong, Pastor General of the Worldwide Church of God, Editor-in-Chief of the Plain Truth magazine, Chancellor of Ambassador College, and Chairman of the Ambassador Foundation, the Presidential Merit Medal in testimony of the nation's appreciation of his personal efforts. Done in the city of Manila this 10th day of February in the Rio Road, 1983. Signed, Ferdinand E. Marcos, President of the Philippines.
President Marcos then decorated Mr. Armstrong with the Presidential Merit Medal and presented him with a parchment scroll of the citation. Several years ago, Mr. Armstrong was highly honored by his longtime friend, King Leopold III of Belgium. King Leopold's father, King Albert, picked up a cannonball from a battlefield after the armistice of World War I, the war that was to end all wars. From that cannonball, he commissioned 4 watches to be made and to be given to the 4 men whom he felt had contributed most to the cause of world peace. The first watch was given to Field Marshal Foch, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Allied armies in World War I. The second watch was presented to General Pershing, Commander-in-Chief of the United States forces in Europe. And the third to George Clemenceau, Premier of France. Finding no one else he felt was qualified to receive the final watch, King Albert passed it on to his son. King Leopold presented that watch to Herbert W. Armstrong. According to Mr. Armstrong, I feel it was the very highest honor the king could have paid anyone. Whatever contribution to world peace I may be making is not through war, but through education, teaching millions worldwide the way to peace. During his visits to various countries, Mr. Armstrong addresses groups of distinguished businessmen and civic leaders. He has spoken before numerous Rotary clubs around the world. In December 1979, Herbert W. Armstrong visited Beijing, the capital of China. His visit marked the arrival of the first Western religious leader invited to speak publicly in the People's Republic and to meet privately with Chinese leaders. Among the highlights of Herbert Armstrong's visit was a conversation with Vice Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, Tan Zhen Lin. Since the early 1960s, Mr. Armstrong has been a frequent visitor to Tokyo, the capital of Japan. During one of his recent visits, he was guest of honor at a special banquet held in Tokyo's Imperial Hotel. Attending were many influential leaders of Japanese society, including 11 members of the Japanese Diet. Mr. Armstrong was especially honored by the presence at his table of His Imperial Highness Prince Mikasa and Princess Mikasa. Completing the list of distinguished guests were ambassadors of 20 other countries. Before his address, Mr. Armstrong was introduced by several prominent Japanese leaders. Among them was Tokuo Yamashita, a member of the Japanese Diet since 1974, and one of the 12 members of the Diet who consider themselves to be one of Mr. Armstrong's Japanese sons.
Dr. Armstrong has carried his mission beyond race, nationality, and socio-political viewpoint. He seeks to serve people all over the world, giving his virtue to almost every corner of the world. Without expecting any reward, he just gives and gives and gives.
Prince Mikasa, a close friend of Mr. Armstrong since their initial meeting in 1968, asked the entire audience to join him in honoring Mr. Armstrong with a toast. his efforts as an ambassador for world peace, Herbert W. Armstrong is an educator. In 1947, he opened Ambassador College, a unique institution of higher learning that blazes new trails in education. A college where students from all over the world come not only to learn the physical knowledge of technology, science, and art, but to be taught eternal values that are ignored in today's materialistic world. The purpose of Ambassador College is fittingly expressed in the college motto, Recapture True Values. Founder and Chancellor Herbert W. Armstrong realized that a quality education must focus on building character as well as gaining knowledge. The same dedication to quality and higher values that has become the hallmark of Ambassador College is maintained by Mr. Armstrong as an author and publisher. The Plain Truth magazine is one of the world's great mass circulation magazines and is published in 6 languages: English, French, Italian, German, Dutch, and Spanish. Since the publication of the first issue in February 1934, The Plain Truth has been based on the concept of not just reporting the news, but analyzing the causes of world events and the reasons behind the problems facing society. Mr. Armstrong draws upon his first-hand view of world conditions in his Personal from the Editor and other articles to make this a truly unique magazine, a magazine of understanding. Ambassador Foundation, founded in 1975, supports various educational and humanitarian projects throughout the world. In conjunction with Hebrew University, students from Ambassador College work during the summer months, excavating various archaeological sites in Jerusalem. Through his mutual friendships with Japan and Israel, Mr. Armstrong has been able to assist Prince Mikasa in building the collection of artifacts at the Middle Eastern Culture Center in Tokyo. As a result of Mr. Armstrong's efforts, Dr. Joseph Aviram, director of the Institute of Archaeology at Hebrew University, presented several fine examples of ancient Israelite pottery. This museum, the only one of its kind in Japan, was founded by Prince Mikasa to enhance the Japanese people's knowledge and appreciation of Middle Eastern cultures. Mr. Armstrong is also greatly interested in a special school in Amman, Jordan, which is partially supported by the foundation. The Bunyat Special Education Center, a personal project of Princess Sardath of Jordan, provides vocational training for mentally handicapped children. On a recent trip to Amman, Mr. Armstrong was accompanied by the princess on a tour of the center's facilities. Projects around the world supported by the Ambassador Foundation provide students from Ambassador College the rare opportunity to serve others, as well as develop new and enriching experiences. For example, through ACCEPT, the Ambassador College Educational Project in Thailand, specially trained students participated in a joint project with Wat Thai Temple of Los Angeles. The students were sent to northern Thailand to help and teach Indo-Chinese refugees who had been accepted for resettlement in the Western world for their new life. All aspects of this worldwide work headed by Mr. Armstrong continually emphasize that only by helping and sharing can we achieve peace. It is a work based on the way of give. As a humanitarian, educator, and ambassador for world peace, Herbert W. Armstrong travels around the world, revealing why mankind's troubles are rapidly increasing in spite of our tremendous scientific progress, and proclaims the good news of how lasting peace will finally come to this earth.
Now we have the weapons of mass destruction. For the first time, 29 to 30 years ago, when the hydrogen bomb was finally perfected, that can annihilate every human being, every human life on the face of the earth. And now it is recorded in the book of Matthew that a time of trouble is going to follow the unification of Europe, and that the trouble will be so great. And the Bible says that nuclear World War III is going to come, definitely. Now that should shock you, but it is true. It is going to happen, and in our lifetime. That same passage, talking about this terrible time of World War III, also says that except God supernaturally intervened to stop it, there would not be a human life left alive on the face of this earth. But God will intervene. The world will be spared. Christ will come. He is going to rule all nations on the earth. He's going to rule Greece. He's going to rule Germany. He's going to rule Russia. He's going to rule the United States, Japan, and China. Every nation. And He is going to bring peace. And they're going to beat the weapons of war into weapons of production. And people are going to learn to get along with one another. People are going to learn to cooperate instead of trying to fight one another. We're going to learn the two can't walk together except they be agreed, but we're going to have leadership, and that leadership will be Jesus Christ now coming as the great supernatural God in the full power of God. Now, in a sense, the unification of Europe may trigger this whole thing that will result in final world peace. So perhaps the official who said yesterday morning that world peace depends upon it, perhaps he was right after all. But just before this passage in Matthew 24 that I told you about, verse 14 says that when this gospel of the kingdom is proclaimed all over the world to all nations, then will these things shortly come. I am proclaiming that message, and it's the first time in over 1900 years that message has been proclaimed to the world. It's the same message that Jesus Christ proclaimed. But people have been preaching a gospel of men about Christ, about the person of Christ, and His gospel was what I've just told you, and that has not been preached. You have heard that fulfillment in your ears here this evening. I ask you, if you have ears to hear, please heed. Thank you very much.